All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I have a very special guest, a close friend of mine. Um, Believe it or not, actually used to hate him back when I lived in Ohio and went to high school. He was a crosstown rival, now turned into a beautiful friendship, I would say. Um, it's interesting because I went to go and get all of his accolades online earlier today, and as I was looking on them, I thought I was only going to get a little bit. And then all of a sudden, I'm on Kent State's football page, and there's just a list of all these things and all these accomplishments that he achieved. And I was shocked. I didn't even know who I was interviewing. I'm in the presence of, as Dave Kahoot would say, I'm zooming in the presence of greatness, I guess. But I'm going to introduce to you guys Luke Wollet. Luke, how you doing?
Good, good. My greatest accomplishment to date is being on this show. So it's great to be here. It's good that, yeah, it's funny. We had the rivalry growing up, and God connects everyone in very interesting ways. I didn't think drugs would connect us, but here we are.
Here we are. You're down a little bit more south than me. We're both down in Florida. I find it. I got my Kent State hat on for you. I didn't even want to show you that one. I got that on.
Yeah.
So that's the snapback of choice for today. It's funny. I want to put it out to the guests too, because they all follow the Fox Sports thing. And Luke is so popular that I have a field pass, and I'm up at the Browns game. And when it comes to Cleveland media members, I go up to them and say, "Yeah, I know Luke Wollet." Mind you, they can't even get the access that I'm getting, and I'm trying to use Luke's name to get credibility with them. That's how high up on the totem pole this guy is.
Yeah, so just so you know, that's Zach, our guy Zach Jackson, Action Jackson. And I hope he sees this so he knows that I've turned down requests for his podcast multiple times, and I'm only loyal to the Youngstown natives.
Absolutely.
So thanks for trying, Zach.
Dude, I feel honored. I feel even more honored, dude. Even more honored. So you said it. You're from Youngstown. Obviously, you went to Poland, where you had they said 3,000. I think they're being a little bit short. 3,400 all-purpose yards, 36 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But the number one stat was you were 1-2 against Canfield.
Oh, yeah, you guys were a lot bigger school back then, and a lot more resources and some cheaters, and you guys hazed our field and just disgusting. But I think I made those stats up myself. I think I was the statistician. So, how accurate they are, I don't know. But we grew up in a very good part of the country, and for people who don't know, Northeast Ohio is the mecca of high school football. So I think everyone grows up where everything is the center of everything is Friday night football. And that's just kind of how friendships and rivalries and really everything develops around Friday night football. So, it's funny. It's like the number one thing that I have in common with so many people from Ohio. It's like, where'd you play high school football at? It's not where you went to school. It's like, where'd you play high school football at?
Well, that's because it's like a whole culture, man. Like it's an environment unlike any others, like Cardinal Mooney, Ursuline, and Canfield, and Poland. Back in the day, which obviously, like you just noted, it's completely different nowadays with the schools decreasing in size. And I heard even Mooney and Ursuline might be merging together and forming one big Catholic school. But that's the environment that we grew up in. And it's like you were 15 miles down the road. We grew up in the same type of environment, same part of the country, but yet I despised you because of your athletic ability. I knew that Poland was coming. I'm like, all right, well, they got Luke Wollet, because you see you all over the news and whatnot. It was like, I'm a fan because obviously I'm too small. I didn't play. We all know that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I hate Luke Wollet. And lo and behold, the way that we cross paths and our interaction and our interest is through that rivalry and through the sport. And I find that's the best part about it.
Yeah, no, it really is beautiful. And, obviously we all grow up and mature at some point and, find life outside of sports, but we all hold that connection and it's, definitely great times, for sure. So I'm glad we're connected now past football and, it's always good to see the success you've been having and, here we are now, in very different roles in life, but a lot of the same background.
Absolutely. And dude, I don't know if you can necessarily say that we dropped the sports, because obviously you see my background over here, and what I'm pursuing. And then if anybody follows you on any type of social media, that beautiful commercial that you did for the Miami baseball team, which I think should be at one of the top of your accomplishments. You still hold on to sports. And you mentioned it, though. We matured and we went on to better things. So obviously you went from Poland to Kent State, where in 2011, I believe it was, you guys had a monster truck year. BCS, credibility, got into a bowl game. I believe it was the GoDaddy Bowl. What I got to ask you this question about college, though. Who was the biggest name that you got to play against?
I would say it would have been, at the time, it would have been Trent Richardson. But, since we have a Northeast Ohio audience, it was Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. And when we played those guys, I remember thinking, those guys are going to be all pro wide receivers. They had like 1st and 10 at like the 30 or 40-yard line. Odell Beckham runs a 15-yard comeback. They call holding, 10-yard penalty. 1st and 20, they run the same exact route for 25 yards, holding, 10-yard penalty. 1st and 30, they run the same exact route for a 1st down. You knew it was coming. You knew what they were going to do. And so after playing those guys, I said, oh my goodness, I see, like, it's so funny. I follow, I probably don't follow as much as people think, but I still follow, some banter on social media. And it's like when people give like Odell or Jarvis Landry crap, I'm like, these guys are disgusting. These guys are disgusting humans, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's like, good luck guarding them. So, I had the rare, cool experience of trying to, and not necessarily succeeding at all. But, definitely some of the biggest names I played.
Did you go now? I think back to myself, because I played football freshman year and I stopped after that. But going into sophomore year, my biggest fear was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to tackle Dan Bana. That was my biggest fear. It was like, oh shit, Dan Bana at practice. Like, it wasn't like who in the season. It was Dan. Oh man, it's the biggest, baddest boy that I saw in high school at that time. What was the mentality knowing that you were going against like skyscraper, not in the sense of physicality size, but as far as playing ability, athletes, and Jarvis Landry and Odell?
Yeah, I think it was always a dream come true. I think like those, Kent's like a relatively small school still. And so I think, it's like people ask me, whenever I say I'm from Ohio, I get the same question, like, OH. And they're like, Buckeyes. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I have a resentment. And it's like, why? Why don't you like them? I was like, well, because Kent State paid for my school, and Ohio State told me I wasn't big enough, so, and I'm like 95% of the time it's OH. So like when you get to play those schools, I think you go in there with like a chip on your shoulder, maybe some insecurities, because there are such great athletes. But like those are the games you always wanted, especially having like professional aspirations. It was a chance to like show that you were good enough and that they messed up. And it was always exciting, it was like one of those games where you always like to think you'd be in it, but you knew you were going to get whitewashed. But like, let's go get some stats and really let's like try to take somebody's head off. And usually it never worked out well, but that was like the mindset.
But that's the thing, though, is you also get to look back, like, later on down in life when you're an old man sitting in a nursing home probably thinking that, well, going senile, uh, you're sitting there and you're gonna be telling people these stories and just, like, because Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, God forbid anything disastrous happens with their career, they're most likely gonna go into the Hall. And you're going to have that opportunity one day when they're going into the Hall of Fame and getting their gold jacket. You're going to be able to tell whoever's near you, kids, grandkids, significant other, whatever it is, I played against them, and that's an experience that a select few get, and that's, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, so what's really cool about it, and I agree with you. What's really cool about it, it's, at one point in my life, it was probably like my defining moment. But what's really cool about it now, it's like in the recovery world that I'm in now, I get to say that someone recognizes that, and then I get to share the real message of hope and recovery that I want to share with them. Because the truth is, they don't know who Luke Wollet is, but 95% of males know who Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Jeremy Hill, Zach Mettenberger, Trent Richardson, like they know who these guys are. And so, like, when I start telling these stories and stuff, it gives an attachment to what I want my message to be to people that are struggling with addiction and mental health and substance use. And so that's really, for me, the cool thing. For a long time, having those experiences and being released by the Saints and really blowing that opportunity in the NFL was a lot of guilt and shame and regret. And I've watched God turn it into a great platform to, although it was very limited, those experiences aren't worthless anymore and for a greater purpose than, just to play in the NFL. So
yeah, what was that? What was that like? What was that like to be, like, to associate your name? Like, we obviously, man, you probably have played video games throughout your life. There may be NCAA or Madden or something, and you created yourself on one of those games, and now you're potentially, I don't know if did you get to that level where you were on a Madden? Were you on the Madden game? I know you definitely were on an NCAA game if they had it still then, I think.
So we were the last year they had the NCAA game. I was never on Madden, but we would always play NCAA football, and like you could download the rosters back then. So like, that had a star under my name. It was awesome. Of course, we played with ourselves, But what was like so funny about it is like they brought that lawsuit that closed the game down, and so we were the last class, and we got paid like $5,000 from the lawsuit, and then we got paid another $7,000 last year from some lawsuit that I didn't even know about. So, finally some residual income from my service to Kent State. You know what I'm saying?
It's about time. I mean, honestly, we could go on for days about the NIL and everything that's going on with that. What was it like? What was it like to, before we get into what you're doing now, because I definitely want to touch on that. What was it like to, like, be with the Saints? Like, be a part of an NFL organization. You said it was a short period of time. Obviously, I understand that. But what was the feelings like? Because there's a lot of people like me, childhood dreams is to have that type of that moment.
Yeah. So let me preface this with, like, anyone who's just like seeing this for the first time, you need to jump over to my page, or Michael will post this in the comments below to really understand what I'm about to say, because it's, it doesn't like just happen overnight. But at the point where I was with New Orleans, I was in full-blown addiction. And so it was like one of those things where I knew I wasn't going to make it, and I was fully okay with, going to Las Vegas and being a compulsive gambler and funding my drug habits. Like essentially my dream turned to a nightmare, and I didn't have that NFL dream anymore. So although it's like cool to, again, connect with people from that standpoint, at that time I was massively insecure and ready for it to end, which is a shame, but it is the truth. So it was a cool experience. It's a different life. I did not make it for a number of reasons, but again, something cool to connect with people over.
Yeah, and ultimately it led you to my honest opinion right now is from everything that you went through, especially with the sports, it led you into this position right now. And what you are doing right now surpasses a lot of what most people are doing in the NFL statistically, what most people are doing contractually, because you are helping out one sick individual, one addict helping another. And I kind of wanted you to touch on that. So how the greatest accomplishment that I left off there, how many years sober, clean, whatever you identify with, do you have nowadays?
So I will be clean and saved and sober. I don't really, you could say whatever. January 7th, that I drank, drugged, or gambled. I am in recovery from gambling. So although I do like to watch you
Fail.
mush all the teams you bet, I don't. I don't personally, but I have a lot of friends obviously that do, that can control it.
So say that again
I'm
because
just like
the Wi-Fi cut out right when you went into your clean date. Was it January 20? What was it?
January 27th, 2017. So I'll celebrate 4 years without the drink, drug, or gambling. And like I was saying, I have a lot of friends that still gamble, but I'm like that person. Yeah, I enjoy watching you mush all these teams that you pick. Like, the mush, but fade the Fabian.
The fade for mushing. I'm mush.
Yeah, so I'm just like one of those people that is like super all into something they enjoy, and sometimes it's really healthy, sometimes it's not. And one of my struggles, which I'll always have, is like finding balance in life. So too much of anything, kids, is a bad thing, and so I can abuse the best of things. So I stay away from it. So yeah, almost 4 years. I'll have 4 years next month, which is, God willing, is a blessing.
And then obviously now you work for a treatment center. You work for Banyan Treatment Center now too, or somewhere like that, natural, or
Yes.
yeah, you work there now, and
you
do a lot of helping people, and you travel. Honestly, I see you traveling more than any human being on this earth. Next thing you know, you're in West Palm Beach, then back up to Ohio, then to somewhere else. I'm like, wait, okay, Luke, want to get lunch?
Well, you know what? Yeah, no kidding. You know what's been so nice is like with this, obviously the virus stinks,
Yeah.
but it really has given me time to not travel as much because I was going so much, and you don't realize really how much that takes a toll out of you. But yeah, I mean, I work for Banyan Treatment Centers, and we have centers all across the country, and what I do now is I guess you could say I'm like I try to advocate against the stigma, advocate for recovery.
Good.
Work with families going in and out of treatment. I had a teammate, Steve Mayer, who was the #1 recruit in our class. I do a lot of stuff with his family, but he died of an overdose in South Florida. It would have been October of 2017. So ever since he passed away, I always kind of had it on my heart to help break the stigma. And what's like been really incredible, it's not only just like, I say like the connection people have with sports. So many people, their identity was high school sports or academics. They all identify with having a purpose in life, and then that kind of getting stripped away. But for people just like that, all the way to I've gotten the opportunity to work one-on-one with all pro safeties and all pro football players that are struggling with anxiety and depression, and then they start abusing pain pills. And so this stuff is so much more common. I thought I was like, the reason I got to a place where I wanted to end my life was because I thought I was the only one. And it's like, as soon as I told my story, not only was I loved and embraced more than anything I've ever done in sports, but I was also, a lot of people opened up to me because I kind of put myself out there. And really, I've seen, I think, a depth and a scope of these issues that probably not as many people can appreciate. And it's like, if there's a chance that someone out here sees this and they're struggling, I mean, I just assume everybody's struggling now because it's a tough world right now. And I mean, it's incredibly common. I mean, I think it's like 1 in 3 people. So I mean, it's
You
like
brought it up.
something like.
Oh yeah, and you brought it up. I thought one of the things that I've tried to follow up on throughout ever since coming down here and learning all the things that I've learned about the mental health and drug and alcohol abuse community is that mental athletes and sports have a correlation with drug addiction. I don't understand why, or I don't understand how. I've been trying to figure that out for years. There's obviously my theories beyond that, and I what makes me even more nervous now is to not get political, but to be honest, with all of these closing down of sports programs and youth sports and all of that, we're going to see a big mental health increase. I've been advocating that on my podcast, on my Facebook page, everything, because I'm truly nervous for the youth, and I'm truly nervous for even college athletes like yourself that necessarily, say your senior year, that pushed a scout to relay that to a front office organization to bring you in for that tryout, allow you onto that practice squad. And that's being lost when we have all these games shutting down due to everything going on. And I'm more in fear, not about the coronavirus. I don't want to touch on that, but the mental health of these athletes and this youth, because they're not going to have the proper coping mechanisms, and because of things being ripped away from athletes that are, trying to aspire for future plans.
Well, two things. So the first thing is, when I went to Kent State, what they do, and I love a lot of people at Kent State. This is very standard across all the country. What they did when I left was they gave you a 30-minute or like a 10-minute checkout exam with a psychiatrist to tell you you're good. Like, not like you're about to make the biggest transition in your life. So there's already inadequate services for the mental health of student athletes to begin with. On top of that, what you just talked about, it's a shame that things get political because it's just a fact. Just from on my level, I've never worked with families than I have this past 6 months. I think I've worked with more families this past 6 months than I have the first 4 years I worked at Banyan, for the years. So, and that's across the board, across anyone you talk to that works in the recovery field, just mental health, drug use, skyrocketing. So although it has become a political issue, it's just a fact.
That's very true.
So we're just seeing the first part of the wave of what's to come with all this stuff. I don't think down is the answer. I think we have to protect our vulnerable. But again, I won't get political on your podcast, because I will.
Trust me, I will too. I mean, you got to stray away from it nowadays because of what's going on. And next thing you know, like, I'm locked up in Facebook jail and cancel culture. There's so many different things that could happen before I even get a contract. You know what I mean? I got to watch every single thing that I say nowadays. It's crazy. But so we're going to get on a little bit of a lighter subject. Dude, I just can't even express, though, how proud I am. I watched you when you first came down here, and the things that you've transitioned to and the causes that you've held on to. It's unbelievable. I mean, like I said, the work that you were doing off of the field after the football era, after the football era of your life, because, like, dude, you also got to realize, man, you're from Northeast Ohio. It's kind of like you said, when you're a high school football athlete and you're on that level and then you are showcased on the news, you're an idol. You are a hero. So we follow up, especially sports fanatics like myself, man, to watch you go from college, because I watched you in college, you and Tally. I watched both of you. And then to watch you transition into life after that, go through the struggles, obviously, and then really see it now full front with the things that you are doing with Banyan. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So that's
I appreciate
number one.
it. I think, thanks, brother. It's funny. I remember going to a meeting with you up in Port St. Lucie when I was like maybe 2 or 3 months sober, and you were one of the first people to put it on my heart. You're like, dude, you could help a lot of people. And I was like, yeah, well, dude, I need to help myself.
I know you, I knew, but I knew.
You planted a seed, so I don't think I didn't. I don't remember that. We had a phone call after, and so I definitely appreciate your help with it. Sometimes you need a little push like that.
Yeah, sometimes I need a little push too when you're sitting there talking shit about my Buckeyes. So let's get to that part. So
Oh,
Dabo Sweeney the other night decided to come out and say, now mind you, he's contradicting everything he said back in September when he was trying to say that no, the Big Ten should not be punished for whatever games they play because these coaches fought hard and they deserve a shot at the playoff. The best teams come from that league. That's from Dabo in September. Well, now fast forward, Ohio State looks like a top 4 team, and Dabo is now changing his tune a little bit, saying that they don't deserve it. How do you feel about the top 4?
so it's so funny. In literally every sport, we've had to make adjustments to how we run the playoffs, to how we do anything. I love Dabo Sweeney. He is out of his mind though. But what I don't get is like this is a perfect year because of the lack of games to actually test run like 8 or 16 teams. You know, not only does 100% of America want that, if there was ever a year to complain about teams not playing enough games, you know, then, you know, Clemson played 10 games. You know, they usually play a 13-game regular season schedule, you know, with the ACC championship game. So, you know, I would love to see like Cincinnati get in there. They could do a little bit of damage. They could knock off, you know, a Notre Dame, you know, Coastal Carolina. I'm a Cinderella guy because I went to Kent State.
But that's the thing. Think back to Dan Patrick put it best this morning, and I'm gonna steal exactly what he said because it's 100% true. Every single sports movie is never written about the Alabama Ohio State 36-point favorite winning the national championship.
Good,
yeah. It's not. It's built on Coastal Carolina, Kent State. Those Cinderella stories where it's not expected to make a nice little run, and next thing you know, they're national champion. Like 2014 Ohio State, look at how – I know you don't like them, but that story was magnificent. Third-string quarterback.
It was great. And, you know, it's so funny. It's like inherent in all of us. Like I think a lot of people have like an underdog mentality. I don't know. At least I do. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think maybe that's because where we're from. And that's like – I think it's just like natural in that area. Like make people proud and like kind of go off on your own. But it's like I'll sit around, I'll do housework and like do my grocery shopping on Saturday until like 2:30, and then I'll check to see like which underdog is the closest to beating a top seed. And then I turn that game on. Just like LSU Florida. I had no intention of watching LSU Florida. But then when I seen the halftime score of like 17-10 or whatever it was, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna watch the rest of this game. I want to see if LSU knocks them off. I could care less about either team, but I love, you know, we love the underdog, you know.
Like look at March Madness. March Madness, you could just take that little example right there. March Madness succeed when there's a George Mason that goes to the Elite Eight, and these little teams go on to these places they should not be, and to knock off the top dog because that's what people love. People love emotion. They want to get tied emotionally into a sport. It's entertainment, and I couldn't agree with you more. The NCAA and the lack of leadership is being exposed on a grand scale this year because every sport has made alterations to their playoffs, to their season, whatever they could do. And the NCAA was like, we're just going to try and operate as business as usual, when realistically, you expand that. Put Texas A&M in there. Put Florida in there. Give me Cincinnati. Go with Coastal Carolina. Let's get an 8-team or playoff going on and squash the other bowls just for this year. Obviously bring them back because I know they generate a lot of revenue for those programs and for those schools. They do. So you give them those bowls next year, but this year run an experiment.
Exactly. Some of the smaller bowls, I heard like what they were going to do is fly them in and out, and like part of the experience for the kids, well, you know, and the experience I had is like it's like a week, it's like a whole week of activities, and so like canceling that, you know, like it takes away from the experience, and they weren't going to do it this year. They were just going to have fly in the day before and fly out. That's what they're going to do for bowl games. So COVID kind of killed that, but yeah, you nailed it. There's a lack of leadership. I was one of the first people as soon as the MAC has. I wouldn't say I was one of the first people, but I will tell you, I caught some slack in my messages from some people, even on my post about saying how I think the MAC made a horrible decision. And then sure enough, they reversed course like 3 months later. And then what happened is just like the Big Ten. The Big Ten had bad leadership. They thought they were like ahead of the curve, and they really put themselves behind, and they put Ohio State in this situation to begin with, because now we're getting into like a little bit more. Obviously, COVID cases are going up a little bit, but all these other teams had chances to reschedule and still play 8 or 9 games, and there's an argument. At this point, it's just all eye test. Like you have to put Ohio State in. God forbid they go 6-0 and you put them as the 5 seed, then you have an illegitimate national champion. I think that too, and I don't even like Ohio State. Again, I'm a very resentful
Ohio
person.
State.
Yeah, I'm very resentful, and I got to work on my own issues.
Yeah,
but,
you hate you're giving Ohio State. Yeah,
dude, they're a really good team, and Indiana's a really good team. Don't forget that. I think Indiana's a really good team. So,
what I don't like about it is they once again, this is another thing that it's hard to touch on because you got the people that'll come at you in your throat. This was another event that got politicized. I've been very open about that. Notice it's the same states that all of the problems are going on in other aspects of this country, as far as politics and crooked crime and whatnot. That's where the Big Ten had the most issues with getting a schedule and everything back on track. There's a correlation there, but that's for everybody else to decide. I'm not there to try and sway people on their political opinions. We're here to talk about sports. Obviously, it sucks. It's so terrible because I'm a Buckeye fan, and Ohio State, like you said, is a top 4 team, and the eye test proves that. And on top of it, man, let's just call it what it is. This is just a little bit of pageantry for the NFL, for the combine, to showcase a little bit. This isn't like a college football season where there's actually emotion tied to it, and like you could say that these seniors and these juniors want this bowl game and this championship for them. No, this is about showcasing yourself for the NFL. This is about making money, and then for the universities, this is about putting the blue bloods in there so that they can make their money and get away scot-free and try and not have to deal with as much of a mess that they've already created.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just saw Kent State announce that they're bringing back some of their players, which is like super exciting. Yeah, so this year doesn't count if you don't want it to.
Well, that's my biggest concern.
But for like Ohio State, those kids you nailed it. They're going to the NFL. But for Kent State, we got one more year out of Sean Lewis before he goes about like 8-3 next year and bounces.
And that they deserve that. Those seniors, those everybody that is on a college roster since 2020. That anybody that is, and I'm talking college basketball and all. Obviously, you hit the nail on the head. The big names, they're getting out because they're just there because of the legalities and the purposes for that. But they deserve to have that extra year of eligibility. It's anything else. This isn't their fault. This isn't like one of those instances where they got a disciplinary restriction from a football season because of their actions. This is due to a disease, or we'll stick with the disease. This is due to a disease. Just to be safe.
Yeah. And those kids, a lot of those Ohio State guys will go on to play in the pros, but a lot of those Kent State kids won't. So this is like their final season. So I think it's good.
Yeah, it is.
We're going to see what happens in a few years, though. It's going to run scholarships dry with some classes, and it'll be interesting. What's that?
Who wins the whole thing?
Alabama.
Why?
Alabama is the best team by far.
What do you think about what do you think about Ohio State's receiving corps?
I think they're good. I just don't. They also haven't. Listen, Indiana's a good team, and I watched Indiana score at will against them in the second half. And I hate to break this to you.
Well, their secondary was playing. I got it, but who's outscoring them? That's my issue. I like that, man. Listen,
who's outscoring them?
I don't.
Mac Jones is going to use it. You're gonna talk to your Heisman winner, Mac Jones.
I'm sorry. Justin Fields had one bad game, and you guys want to write him off. First it was Trevor Lawrence. Now you want to slide Mac Jones in there. Let's just hand it over to Justin.
I'll tell you this. I think that they're the third best team in the country.
Who do you think's ahead of them?
Alabama, then Clemson.
I think it's Alabama. I'll give you Alabama because I haven't seen enough of Ohio State yet. So I'll give you Alabama at 1, but I'm going number 2, Ohio State. Clemson is not Clemson.
Oh my God! Clemson they're a steam house. Their backup quarterback's going to get drafted too. That kid's a stud too.
Do you see what Ohio? You want to talk about backups? You want to see what Ohio State's dealing with right now? You want to look at their roster. Look at what's coming in.
I'll tell you this. I got the coach Justin Hilliard at St. Xavier High School, captain for Ohio State this year, and the kid could not be a nicer kid. So like when he's on there, I root for him, and like I hope he does really well. And honestly, I wouldn't be mad if they won because of him. He's like a salt of the earth kid. But dude, I don't think they got it this year. I mean, it's I also didn't think they had it in 2014. And
you never
did have it. I don't know.
You never do. The only time that I ever get text from you is when Ohio State's doing bad. That's when I know that Ohio State's. I don't have to watch the game because I'll get a text that says Luke Wollet pops on my phone. Like, oh well, there goes Ohio State. Something's going on.
Well, it's so funny. Like I think there was like one bowl season where like the Big Ten just like dominated. They went like 8-0, like 4-0 against SEC, and that's all I heard about. But then they like the next like 4 years, it was all SEC. So. I don't know. I'll tell you this though. I think the Big Ten is becoming a deeper conference than the SEC. Some of these SEC teams are trash.
Yeah, I get that, but you're talking about the Big Ten and a good.
But the best of the best.
And their worst year.
Best, it's a different league. The LSU team last year, Alabama gave them all they could handle. I mean, did you see LSU's self-imposed ban? Or because of all talk about that. That's literally the greatest penalty ever enforced. It's like a slap in the face to the NCAA. It was like, that was a dumb thing to make us sanction ourselves.
We're 4-6. We're gonna give ourselves a year ban from a bowl game in 2020 during a pandemic, and we're below 500. You can't rank. Yeah. That's the most Ed Orgeron like LSU SEC discipline thing I've ever seen in my life.
So it's so funny because like I really wish they would have lost to Florida just because they would have been 3-6 and it wouldn't have mattered, you know. but those teams can't hurt themselves a year in recruiting. That it literally will set them back, 3 or 4 years in the program, and that will cost Coach O his job. So he's not stupid.
No,
there's no way you could self-ban yourself 10 years or like 3-year penalty or something.
Yeah, but they're in a lot of they did a lot of shady shit. They did a lot of shady.
Babes, they all do.
I know.
You know what I can't say who. I had a coach when I was a captain at Kent State. I was sitting at a table and they were recruiting Jadeveon Clowney, and he said they were the second place team. And one of my buddies asked, well, how come he didn't come to you guys? He goes, we didn't have enough money. So, like, don't let any of these big schools fool you. All those Ohio State guys are getting paid. All these SEC schools guys are getting paid. Odell Beckham just did it on camera like a dummy.
But all these
boosters, these guys are set. They're all getting taken care of.
I got to tell you.
I went to Kent State. There's no money there.
You want a meal card?
Yeah, that's right. They give you like an extra couple bucks to swipe.
Dude, Carlos, back when we were in college, I think, when we were in college, Carlos Hyde, I think, lived next door to my buddy, and he was rolling in a Cadillac. And I'm pretty sure Carlos Hyde, I'm almost 1,000% positive is from Jacksonville, Florida. And if you've been if you've ever been to Jacksonville, Florida, in the city of Jacksonville, Florida, you would know that
Duval County.
You would know that Carlos Hyde might not be equipped with the resources to buy himself a brand new Cadillac while he's a college student.
It's a fact. So,
all right, brother.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm going to let you get off here. I am going to pick up my wonderful kids, do the whole dad stuff. Whenever you want to come on here, you have the open pod. I would love to have a podcast with you because I think it would be fantastic.
That's
I think it
right.
would.
Yeah. With snapbacks and AirPods.
Snapbacks it. No, I'm gonna send this. I'm gonna send this out, dude. But I appreciate you a lot. Make sure if you see, I got a spot right there for you. All right. So whatever Kent State memorabilia, not the ones that you've like won. Make sure it's no pulling shit. But give me some Kent State with your signature on it, and I'll put that up there with you. All right, brother.
Let's go. I love it. Sounds good, brother.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me. I love you. Have a good day. All right.
Love you too, brother.